is the hardest thing life has thrown at you? Were you prepared for it? Could you have prepared for it? I'm an outspoken advocate for pediatric illness. A momcologist is the mother of a child with cancer. She's part parent, part nurse, and full-time advocate. And I will never, ever, ever forget the night that the doctor came in and woke me up and said it was time to let Mitchell rest and put him on life support. You have to be realistic about your abilities, and you have to remain calm when bad things happen. That's not always easy. When a hard time comes, it takes so much less effort to just be yourself. Take that mask off and be authentic. I believe that you have to find gratitude in life. Start your day with a positive mindset and end on a positive mindset. In every situation, there is something to be grateful for. What is the hardest thing life has thrown at you? Were you prepared for it? Could you have prepared for it? I've learned in the realest of ways that tragedy happens and life goes on. I had to recover quickly. I had to be resilient. Resilience is defined as the speed in which you recover in a hard time. It's your ability to bounce back, to be tough. It's a skill set, and it's something that you build over time. I'm going to share with you today ways that you can master resiliency in your own life. So my tragedy was a big one. In 2012, I was at the top of my professional game. I was on top of the world, really. My life had unfolded just as I had planned. I was the owner of a successful marketing agency in Charlotte, North Carolina. We were celebrating our 10th year. I was a wife and mother to a precious 3-year-old little boy named Frank. And in February of that year, I delivered my second child, Mitchell, and he was absolutely perfect. So as is custom in my family, and because our heirloom baptism dress is very small, and it fits small babies, and mine are very big, we took Mitchell for his baptism into the Christian faith. It was a glorious day. We celebrated with the luncheon, and that afternoon, I noticed strange bruises on his legs. The following Monday, I took him to the pediatrician, where they took a blood panel, and the doctor recognized that something was very wrong and sent us to the hospital. By the end of that day, they told me that my 3-month-old baby had leukemia, had a 40% chance of survival, and that we would be in treatment for 2 years. Now, to say that the news was shocking really just doesn't even do it justice. It was completely devastating. We started treatment the next day, and Mitchell underwent chemotherapy treatments daily for every day that followed. He had blood transfusions. I regularly administered IV treatment at home. I had to learn to administer chemotherapy drugs. And I will never forget the first time I asked the nurse to give my 4-month-old baby morphine. That is such a big drug. But cancer is a big disease, and my child was suffering. Mitchell, in the 2 years that he was here, he achieved remission. And so as we continued with the protocol, the drugs that were intended to save him were so hard on his tiny body. I worked very closely with a team of pediatric oncologists and nurses, and that's where I earned my title of momcologist. A momcologist is the mother of a child with cancer. She's part parent, part nurse, and full-time advocate. She knows the names of chemotherapy drugs and every side effect that comes with them. She stands as a beacon of hope as her child suffers. She'll stop at nothing to find a cure for this awful disease. So while Mitchell was sick, I continued to run my business. We had just signed our largest contract in the history of the company, and so we were very busy. I was often forced to choose between my healthy child, who was living at home with family and relatives taking care of him, so that I could be with my sick child, because of course Mitchell's cancer treatment was top priority. It was so stressful for me. And choosing between my children really broke my heart some days. But as I said, Mitchell achieved remission, and I really thought that he was going to survive. But as we were nearing the 2-year protocol, the cancer came back, and it was back with a vengeance. It was in over 80% of his bone marrow. I knew then that it wasn't good. The doctors told us that we had to start treatment all over again. That meant 2 more years. And we were preparing Mitchell for a bone marrow transplant. Now, we celebrated his 2nd birthday in the hospital with a birthday party. He was in isolation like most cancer patients are, and so we just had a couple of friends come. But it was a very happy day. And we started the 2nd round of treatment that next day. The drugs were so hard on him, and his body was so tired. His organs began to go into failure. And I will never, ever, ever forget the night that the doctor came in and woke me up and said it was time to let Mitchell rest and put him on life support. The stress that my child was in that night haunts me and will haunt me forever. I firmly believe he would have either had a heart attack or a stroke if we had not put him on machines to help him rest. It became pretty clear that Mitchell was not going to survive. His body was really showing no signs of life. And so on Palm Sunday, 2014, we gathered around his bedside and we sang the hymn, "How Great Thou Art," when we turned the machines off. And he was gone before the hymn was over. It's hard for me to think about that. The next 2 years, the darkness, the grief really was overwhelming. It's true when they say that there is no greater loss, there is no greater pain than losing a child. And I had to let myself feel that pain. I had to acknowledge it so that I could work through it. But there came a point where I knew I had to take responsibility for my recovery and for my resilience. And so the first step for me was not to go back to bed every day, but to go to the gym. Try to get some physical activity, because that's something I had so enjoyed before Mitchell became sick. Eventually, I began to recover, but my marriage did not survive. So today I'm a single mother to Frank, who's now almost 10 years old. He's in the 4th grade, and he keeps me very busy. I'm no longer the owner of a marketing agency. I found my purpose in Mitchell's Fund, which is a nonprofit that I founded to help other families with sick children. I'm an outspoken advocate for pediatric illness. And I share my story to offer perspective to others and to help them find resiliency and overcome the struggles in their own life. So what is it you're struggling with today? We all have something. It's okay. And the first step to resiliency is accepting that. To accept that we all struggle and accept where you are in your life today and accept the emotions you feel. It's okay, and you will survive. You have to be realistic about your abilities, and you have to remain calm when bad things happen. That's not always easy. I had to train myself to do that because with a sick child, especially a child in cancer treatment, each day is filled with a variety of shocks, of bad news. Sometimes it's good news. Those were the good days. But you have to remain calm and really think about how you will react, how you can move forward and move through the adversity that you're facing. You have to think positive. You have to believe that you will overcome. I believed with all my heart that Mitchell would beat cancer. And while he did not beat it the way that I wanted him to, in the end, he did win. Because my Christian faith tells me I will see him again. And he's not sick here anymore. I believe that you have to find gratitude in life. Start your day with a positive mindset and end on a positive mindset. In every situation, there is something to be grateful for. Now, sometimes you have to look pretty hard, but you can find it if you look. And gratitude really strengthens your ability to be resilient. You have to be optimistic when bad things happen. You know, we hear things like, look on the bright side. Have your glass half full. And if you train your mind to believe those things and to think those things, when something bad happens, it will be automatic. And you'll suddenly find yourself feeling better. You'll find yourself being more positive. You have to take responsibility for your resilience. As I said earlier, I took responsibility by saying, Meg, you can't go back to bed today. Go to the gym. That physical activity, even though I was very slow at first, just doing a little made me feel stronger physically, and it made me feel better mentally. So take responsibility for the steps that are required to help you recover from what it is you're struggling with. You need to find a purpose. Find a way to use your skills, because we all have skills that we are really good at. We have things we really love to do. Find a way to use those to help others. I can honestly say I have found my purpose in the work I do for Mitchell's Fund. There is nothing greater than to be able to help another family with a sick child by relieving their financial burden so they can focus on helping their child recover. That is a beautiful feeling for me. Serve others. You know, you can do that in so many ways. We hear about random acts of kindness. Have you ever tried that? Try that. Because it will make you feel better. I think one of the most important things that I've personally learned in my life is to improvise. I'm a very structured, scheduled, sometimes I've been told I'm a little rigid with the schedule. But if you are more flexible and you realize bad things are going to happen, they happen to all of us. But if you are more flexible and you improvise and you understand that things are going to change and you're going to have to change with them, it will increase your ability to be resilient and recover in a positive way. So I recommend that. That was one thing I really had to learn myself, was how to be more flexible and understand that it wasn't always going to follow the script. It's important to have strong relationships in your life, even if there's just one. That support will be important to you. It's important just on a daily basis, but in a time of crisis, you have someone to go to. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's one thing so many of us struggle with. We think that, and maybe even we're taught, that asking for help is a sign of weakness. Well, I want to tell you today that it's not. It's a sign of a leader, and it's a sign of someone who is resilient and wants to take responsibility for their own life. Ask for help. But in that same breath, don't be afraid to say no thank you to an offer to help. When my son was sick, we were very fortunate to have a strong church community and others who quickly went into action organizing meal service. They wanted to run errands, but sometimes that became overwhelming for me to manage, especially since I was living in the hospital with Mitchell and the other part of my family was living at home. And so there were times that I had to say, thank you, but no thank you. And I want to tell you that's okay. It's okay to say no thank you, because when you're in a crisis, you really have to focus on your own survival and your family's survival. And finally, I think the more authentic we are in the way we interact with others, in the way we communicate with others, the better you will be when a hard time comes. It takes so much less effort to just be yourself. Take that mask off and be authentic. Be bold. Be brave. And don't be afraid to let people know none of us are perfect. So authenticity will help you be more resilient in life. So how can we put these into practice today? How can you leave here and become more resilient? I want you to start with one thing. What is one thing you can do today that can help you overcome what you are struggling with? Put that into action today. Just one thing. Write that down. Write down your goals. What do you want to become? How are you going to get there? Write that down. Talk to others. Share your story. If there's something very freeing about opening up and telling someone else what it is you're struggling with. You'll be surprised because they will probably respond with something they're struggling with too. And that will strengthen your relationship with that person. So don't be afraid to share. So write down your goals. Write a life mission statement. What do you want your life to be? How do you want to serve others? What do you want to do to improve yourself? Self-care is not selfish. It's self-respect. So write those goals. Start with one thing today. Believe in yourself. Trust your instincts. Take time for you. Set those goals and go after them. Thank you very much.